This one's not especially difficult. What happened to Jimmy Kimmel last night is outrageous. You've seen the news. I'll put some stuff on the screen to just go over it, but the basic details are essentially on he first of all, he's been very clear about not ever making a negative comment about Charlie Kirk. I want to be clear about that. But in the course of one of his monologues a few days ago, he said, well, the following. I'll put it on screen here and you can see for yourself. And there was a little bit that came after it. He married that with there was a press pool meeting with President Trump where the press is like, hey, I know you were friends with Charlie Kirk. How do you feel about it? And he was like, how are you dealing with it? And he's like, I'm dealing with it. And then, by the way, he like immediately pivots to like the new ballroom that's being created that for $200 million, by the way, that the White House actually fucking needs this. But okay, neither here nor there. And he mocked him for that. The idea that this is anything other than a government actor pressuring private enterprise for an outcome that they want, the idea that it's anything other than that is some idiot lying to you, some partisan just lying to you. We dealt with this in sports media. The right absolutely, there are principled conservatives, of course. The right absolutely does, in large part, does not believe in anything other than their own dominion. They do not believe in sharing power with the left. They believe in the exercise of their power as best they see fit. That is the entire story, the beginning and end of this. We saw this in sports media in the 2010s when there was pushback against with perceived left-wing media anyway, about the introduction of sports into politics. And over again, from the Clay Travises, who has a whole book about this, kept saying to us, no, what we want is actually neutrality. We want to return to normal. But what they really wanted was none of that. What they really wanted was simply to get their worldview introduced, their politics introduced. It wasn't about there being neutrality. It was about actually the opposite of that. And you've seen that now play out writ large over and over again. They had so many concerns, some of them quite valid, about censorship and free speech when they had an administration in power that was not their own. And then when it comes time for them to exercise this presumed neutrality, or at least some kind of version of it, they go further than I've ever seen any president in my lifetime go. I'm 46 years old. This is the most anti-free speech administration of my life. It's not even close. Again, I'll put on the screen some things to go over many of the different ways in which they are affecting free speech, to say nothing of the fact that they're rounding up people for op-eds about boycotting Israel or any other number of cockamamie reasons, both to round up immigrants, that's part of it, as well as to tamp down on speech. They've tried to put in new speech codes at universities. They've threatened to snatch funding. I mean, I could go on and on about it, but let's just stay where we are on this particular series. Nexstar is trying to get a merger through, by the way, to vastly increase. It's a monopolistic merger with a competitor to be in a huge amount of homes. And of course, they need the FCC to approve it. That is a big driving force in this one. But the real way that we know that this is all FCC driven is because the FCC chief said on Benny Johnson's show, essentially under the force of threat, that this is what it had to be. I'm imagining there's going to be some kind of lawsuit about this one way or another in the future. And then the balls on conservatives to say, no, this is a at-will firing. Go yourself. No one believes this, least of all you. Or that this is actually within the purview of the FCC's oversight, when in fact, the FCC previously under Biden, when through the Dominion lawsuit, we discovered Fox News, who had to pay out nearly $800 million, knowingly told lies and knowingly did not share the truth and were sued into oblivion for it, yet never had their license threatened like this, because of course that would be absurd. Or the claim that, like, yes, the FCC can weigh in on the truth claims about what Kimmel said because his assessment of who Tyler Robinson was, we now know to be wrong. At the time in which he said it, it was actually a little bit less clear, but now we certainly know it to be wrong, or at least, not supported by the available evidence. And the idea that, like, the FCC has the right to act like the Ministry of Truth. Dude, these fucking people don't believe in they believe in nothing. What is this, Venezuela? Is that where we are? We're headed towards Turkey. We're headed towards Kuwait territory, where comedians serve at the pleasure of the president. Go yourself. This is absolutely insane. He didn't even make any comment about Kirk himself. Fine, he shouldn't, but whatever. And then on top of it, he makes a claim, a joke, a mild joke, more so about Trump, and then made a statement that we now know to not be supported by the evidence. But we've just seen a news organization engage in flagrant lying to the point where they had to reach this massive settlement in the process without ever actually the FCC even so much as threatening their license. Dude, these people, when they were telling you about free speech during COVID or any other time, these fucking people do not believe it. You might find a principled conservative out there that you actually want to talk to and convince. And there are people that aren't necessarily sure what the truth is, and advocating your worldview for them is important. But the rest of those bozos, you are not under any obligation to take anything they say seriously. They don't fucking mean it. They will turn on a dime like that. There is no fealty to principle whatsoever. And these fucking bozo comedians in the Rogan sphere, boy, you morons look real good today. How about that? All of you dumbasses out there and Rogan himself too is a little bit culpable, actually a lot culpable in this. Having Elon Musk on being like, yeah, if Kamala Harris gets elected, that's the end of free speech as we know it. You fucking lying bitch. You know that's a lie. You know you weren't telling the truth, and you let that go uncontested, Joe. Unforgivable. But the rest of those guys all getting out, we got to get out there and say free speech. You're easily fooled by, I don't know if anyone's told you this. You're easily fooled. You're not bright. You're easily fooled. You don't understand how any part of the world works. You're not politically savvy, in any particular way. And you got conned. And now you might feel bad about the con. Not all of them are going to own up to it. But even the ones who own up to it, maybe fucking reflect on what it means that you got so easily conned by all of this. It was not hard to tell who this guy was and what he wanted to be. He was just impeded in his first administration because there were other adults in the Republican firmament who could keep him from his more insane ideas. And that's out the window. And now, of course, what do we have? We have bills being introduced that if you're insufficiently reverential of Israel and you're an American citizen, you might lose your passport. Dude, these people don't believe in anything other than they're up there and we're down here and tough shit. That's their worldview. You do not have an obligation to take any of those things seriously. It doesn't matter to them at all. And they will say, oh, it's the Democrats are exaggerating the threat and we didn't do anything, that this was the private enterprise. There was no Jimmy Kimmel pushback organically from the viewing audience. And by the way, f*** you for making me defend Jimmy Kimmel, because I don't even like him. I think he sucks. I think he's terrible. I don't even think his show is very good. His politics is, more closer to mine than Trump's are, but I don't think his show is good, and I'm not going to miss the show as such. But we're living in a world where he's being penalized for the most mild of speech. Meanwhile, Brian Kilmeade is on Fox just casually suggesting that we euthanize the homeless, and all he had to do was apologize for it. I mean, I guess I'm glad he at least did that. How is in any universe that worse than what Jimmy said? Of course, the answer is it's not. It's not worse than it. It's not worse than that at all. But we have Republicans and the right want you to believe that they have a principled stance about their worldview. And what reality has shown is when left to their own devices, it is simply not real. They'll just do whatever they feel is politically expedient. They'll do whatever they want, whether it matches what they said even 6 months ago. It doesn't fucking matter. All of their criticisms of the left were just at that moment in time. They didn't like how the balance of power was stacked, so they wanted to lash out in a different way. That's what all of this is. There's nothing else to this. I'm not saying that there aren't principled people on the right more broadly, and you might know some personally in your life. I, in fact, know some that feel that way. Many of them, by the way, are horrified by what's happening. But either way, yes, they exist. But the people at the top of this political food chain, they don't care. They'll go to Europe like J.D. Vance and lecture about the freedoms of speech and then go back and then do this and then try to get normal people fired from their jobs for being insufficiently reverential for a political adversary's, they didn't provide enough valorization around their political project. They don't believe in anything. Guys, this next election, the 2026 one, I don't even know if this is going to be enough. But what I can tell you is it is existential. It's existential. This is not the end of things. This is just the beginnings. How long before they're leaning on Google to go and start deleting people's YouTube accounts under whatever false pretenses they want it to be able to be done by? How long until that happens? How long before they go after Substack? How long before they go after any of these places? How long? You look at how aggregated the right-wing media now is, both in terms of people who are either Trump donors, somehow Trump aligned. This is both true on the consolidation of traditional media as well now as social media. Look at this. Look at this. The plan is clear. The plan is dominion. The plan on their part is dominion without end. The plan is to prosecute their political enemies. The plan is to make the left incapable of governing ever again, at least in their lifetime or anytime soon. That's the plan. If you vote for people, forget the right, but if you're on the left and you vote for people like Hakeem Jeffries, you are sealing our fate. You are sealing our fate. There is one choice left. You must vote for fighters to come take over, and they need to be in enough supply to make a difference. Period. Anything else, we are beyond finished. We're not even a year in. We're not even a year in, and they are engaging in a kind of suppression, both around ideas, speech, and acts, because now, of course, they want to go after Antifa, whatever the fuck it's going to mean for a disorganized, not even a loose federation, just a disorganized set of ideas put in action, basically. They're coming. They're on their way. And in many ways, they're already here. It is fascism. There's no other word for it. You are watching the consolidation and takeover of power in real time. You are watching political adversaries suffer under this move in real time. Nothing about what they say is honest. They're not honest. They don't, I'm going to show all their many hypocrisies in action. Do you think that they care? Do you think that the people most loyal to them care? There is no choice but to defeat them. Other people, independents, people that can be convinced, yes, they need to be convinced. The message doesn't stop. The push doesn't end. But have an awareness about what's happening at the top. If comedians have to serve at the pleasure of the president, buddy, we are This is the beginning of something that will prove to be, if not stopped, existential. More soon.